We're live. Just checking the audio real quick.
Making sure everything is going. Let's not load this yet. There we go. It works. There we go. Okay, let me change the angle of execution on this camera.
Fixing the camera.
I didn't realize it was all twisted.
Making sure everything's good.
Yeah, we're not good. All right. What do you think about this? Ready?
I'm ready. You ready?
All righty. Welcome back to Split Decision. This week, I believe it's episode 73.
Correct.
We're going to briefly talk last week's UFC Saudi Arabia. Thank you, Riyadh season. It was a good card.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
From there, we're going to talk UFC 312. You have two title fights. You've got Sean Strickland versus Dricus Du Plessis 2.
For the men's middleweight.
Rematch. Dricus stole it the first time. Are we going to get a trilogy if Sean Strickland wins it? We'll see. And then you have the female, the female strawweight, Wei Li Zhang versus Tatiana Suarez for the strawweight title. And then we're going to talk Super Bowl, 50-something?
50-something.
Cool.
Chiefs, Eagles. Chiefs going for the three-peat. Chiefs
will get the three-peat. Saquon's going to have to watch it on his birthday. But let's talk prelims on to start off. UFC 312. Before that, real quick, both went 8-3, two different ways on a Saudi Arabia card. It was a good card. I had a lot of fun. One fight was canceled. Hopefully they booked that. Al Sawadi and Bellagio Oki. I think that would be a good one.
Sounds like a casino.
Right. Nasruddin Imavov pretty much cemented himself a title shot.
If not, he's
one away.
Yeah, one away. But impressive victory. Knocking out Izzy.
Michael Venom Page did that. It was a fun stylistic fight, where they were both doing their crazy style.
He proved nobody can really hang with him on the feet. He further cemented that.
That's the big thing. If you can take him down, you can probably win. But if it's going to be not a stalemate.
When Michael Venom Page has better grappling and wrestling than you in clinching,
you're going to lose.
You're going to lose.
Right. But yeah, it was a great card. Good knockouts, a couple submissions. I had a lot of fun. Awesome fight night. And it started at 8 a.m. So it was, real good fun for the whole day. Let's jump right into the thickness of this with the first fight we're going to talk about.
Colby Thickness.
Yeah, taking on the UFC newcomer, Alexander Topuria.
Brother of the featherweight champ, Ilya.
Thickness with the slickness. The undefeated prospect is 7-0, securing 4 finishes before his UFC debut, and he's only 25.
He's the current former Hex champion. Never heard of the organization, but he does have a belt coming in. As you said, making his UFC debut. He comes in on a 3-fight finish streak.
Right.
So last 3 fights, he finished his opponents, 2 TKOs, 1 sub. And he's taking on a guy also making his UFC debut. Good genes possibly in Topuria. As we said, the brother of Ilya Topuria.
Right.
He comes in on a 3-fight winning streak, all of them TKOs. So both these guys, before they've gotten to the UFC, they've kind of dominated the regional scene with big-time finishes.
They have. Like you just said, Topuria's never been to a decision. Thickness, trains with Volk in Australia. So
Topuria trains with Topuria, so maybe a little
Australian
camp rivalry.
It's a fight, almost a fight we've seen before. Australian versus Georgian. Who do you think wins? Do you think the plus $300 underdog in Colby Thickness, can he cement his ground game and take the fight down, where the Topurias are good, but their striking is much better than their ground game? Or,
I don't know. Topuria was known as a ground guy before his striking recently evolved to that point.
Now,
what I'll say is, we obviously don't know too much about either guy. Both of them making their UFC debut. Both of them have impressive resumes before the UFC. Because of that, I got to go with the odds and the genes. I got to go with Topuria. I'm assuming he has some of the skill set of his brother.
he's got a loss though.
Vegas knows odds, though. There's no way they're going to give him this crazy odds without them being pretty confident in him. I'm going to trust in Vegas, considering I don't know anything about either guy, relatively anything about either guy.
Fair.
I'm going to go with Topuria getting the win.
All right. I think I'm going to side with you for everything you said. Gene Poole, I can't argue with any of it because it's probably right. I'd say Topuria's never been to a scorecard. I'm going to give him another KO victory.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting fight. It's going to be one people are going to be excited about, entertaining. But yeah, Topuria by finish.
Let's jump to the women's flyweight division. First off,
everybody Wang Kong tonight.
Thank you.
We got
Joker.
The Joker. Last time she kind of made a fool of herself just because.
Yeah, she was not talking, but she did.
Talking, you paint your face, and then you go and you lose by submission.
Heartily to Gabriela Fernandez.
She's taking on no slouch either. Brazil, who's from Brazil, the special one, 2-2 in the UFC. She's coming off of a win over Molly McCain in her last fight. She has alternated wins and losses in her last 5. That is Brazil, and she won her last one. So take that in whatever context you want to take it.
Right.
Wang Kong 1-1 in the UFC. Both of her fights, something you don't see in a lot of women's fights, both of her fights have been finishes too. So she doesn't like to go to the scorecard.
I believe in Wang Kong's fight with Gabriela Fernandez, the pre-fight odds were minus like 1,000. They were kind of crazy. Now here they're still stacked pretty firm at minus 525. So I think we kind of already know both picks. Unless we see something crazy from Bruna Brazil, which I haven't in her, couple losses in the UFC. I think Wang Kong is going to rebound well off of her loss to Gabriela Fernandez, and I think she's going to win this fight.
Yeah, it always comes down to how are you going to respond, especially when you get your first loss and you're a big prospect. How are you going to respond to the loss? I'm going to bet on Wang Kong. Responds well. I think she's going to come redeem herself. She's fighting closer time zone wise.
Yeah, it's not a crazy leap like she had last time.
Yeah, so I'm going to go Wang Kong. I'm going to go the Joker. I think she gets the win over Brazil, gets to a 2-1 UFC record, and kind of starts moving back in that path everybody thought she was, which is eventual title contention.
Right. Do you think she gets a finish? I mean, she's got 4 of her 6 wins as finishes. 1 in the UFC, 1 on the road to the UFC. So we kind of have both of those on her side.
I'm going to go with the finish just because, as you said, she's known as she can get finishes.
Right.
She's getting KOs. Brazil, one thing we've known about her, she can get KO'd. Out of her 4 losses, 3 of them have been by KO, TKO.
Right.
So that seems to be not her weakness, but, it happens.
Her deficit.
Her deficit. So I'm going to go Wang Kong. I'm going to go by TKO. I'm going to say 3rd round, too.
3rd round. I'm going to go with a KO as well. I don't know exactly the round, but I'm thinking we're going to get, that ground and pound KO that, they have to just stop the fight because Brazil can't do anything.
Yeah, where it's not necessarily like you're knocked out, but it's like you just can't do anything. And
Yeah,
there's no point to take this.
There's nothing left to talk about. All right, let's go to the next fight. Lightweight division, which Borshev always surprises me that he's in lightweight because he just doesn't look at.
And your name's Slava Claus. You think you'd be a big guy.
At 5'11", he just doesn't seem like he could fit into 155. But he's facing the Australian, Tom Nolan.
Big train.
This is going to be a fun one. You got Slava Claus, Vyacheslav Borshev, if I have to say his name as best as I can.
His government name.
He's interesting. I've often rode the lightning on Vyacheslav Borshev. I'm going to just say Slava Claus from now on. I've often rode the lightning on him, and he's an interesting fighter, but he hasn't won a whole bunch. He's 2-2-1 in his last 5.
3-3-1 overall in the UFC. 1-1-1 in his last 3. So he's a guy. I mean,
I don't know what to do. He's 8-4-1 in his career. So he started somewhere strong, got to the UFC, and he's been put up the mixed bag.
But he is fighting in probably the hardest division, most deep division with depth in the UFC.
And it's obviously a division that, regardless of your height, you can compete in because you got Tom Nolan, who's 6'3", still finding a way to fight.
He's still 24, so I feel like he hasn't fully grown onto his body.
Oh, yeah,
he's not
metabolism hadn't caught up with him.
He's a guy that's eventually going to have to move up 170. But Tom Nolan, as you said, 6'3", he's 8-1, 2-1 in the UFC. He's coming off of a win. He's won 2 straight after losing his UFC debut. He's fighting in his home country of Australia. So there's a lot of things pointing in Tom Nolan's favor in this.
Can I tell you another thing pointing in Tom Nolan's favor?
Tell me another thing.
In the UFC, Slava Claus has never won against a southpaw stance fighter.
And let me guess.
Tom Nolan is a southpaw stance fighter with a 4-inch reach advantage. I have to say this is a slight plus, at least at the moment, plus 115 right now. I got to say Tom Nolan's going to win this fight. Tom Nolan's probably going to get a finish. Tom Nolan is going to get a KO over Slava Claus.
I agree with you in that Tom Nolan's going to win. But I think this is going to be a decision win by Tom Nolan. He does have 5 KO out of his 8 wins.
But Borshev has never been knocked out.
Borshev's never been knocked out, and 3 out of his 4 losses have been to the scorecard. So Tom Nolan, I think he comes in. I think he wins the fight. I think he puts on a good performance. I don't think he quite gets the finish, though, but I think it's going to be a convincing win for Tom Nolan.
Okay, we agree at least on the winner. Let's go to the featherweight division, the final fight on the regular prelims, because we decided we weren't going to cover the first 3 or the first 3 on the prelim or super prelims, as we'll call them, just because. Jack Jenkins versus Gabriel Santos.
Jack Jenkins, 13-3 overall with a 3-1 UFC record, coming off of a 3rd-round TKO of Herbert Burns. Santos.
I want to talk about that more because every opportunity I can talk about Herbert Burns having to get carried out of the octagon and then immediately
by his big brother,
and then immediately getting cut from the UFC. That's a big one. Jack Jenkins beat the brakes off that fucking dude.
And that was like the 2nd or 3rd time in a row. But anyway, Santos comes in 11-2, but he's 1-2 in the UFC. He is coming off his first UFC win, though. So he lost his first 2 fights, got the win in August of last year. So maybe he's building a little bit of momentum. I think this is going to be a banger of a fight, though.
So what about Jack Jenkins having an 0-1 record at home in Australia?
I think one fight, you can't really draw anything from it.
No.
If he was like 0-7 in Australia, yeah, I would give you something. But 0-1.
Okay. Well, I
think that makes him hungrier to get a win.
I agree. I'm still leaning Jack Jenkins for the win.
And his only loss in the UFC is due to injury. It's an arm injury.
Yeah.
His TKO loss, but I mean, it's because he hurt his arm.
Yeah, he's 3 years older, 2-inch reach disadvantage to Gabriel Santos, who's, kind of had a mixed bag, lost 2 out of his last 3. First 2 in the UFC.
Yeah, but he won his last one, so maybe
Right.
he's turning the corner. He just had to get used to the competition.
The change of competition.
After a 10-0 record coming in the UFC.
Right. I think another fight that's close on the odds, plus 190, minus 235, with Gabriel Santos being in the favorite.
That's not that close. That's 2-1 favor for Santos.
I think Jack Jenkins is going to be able to close this, like you said, hungrier at home, kind of putting some stank on his name with an underdog, with a home crowd screaming his name. Everybody's going to be there for it, especially for the final fight of the prelims. I think Jack Jenkins is going to show up, show out, and win this fight.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised at the odds. I thought they'd be closer, honestly, especially with Jack Jenkins being that big of an underdog, plus 190. But I'm going with Jack Jenkins. I think he comes in and gets the win. He has more UFC experience. He knows how to win better in the UFC. He's won literally 300% more. But yeah, I got Jack Jenkins over Santos. I think it's also going to be a decision win for Jack.
Okay. All right. Welterweight division next up. First fight on the main card, you have Jake Matthews.
One interesting thing before you get this, starting with the last fight.
Okay.
4 fights in a row, we're going to have an Australian guy with his first name starting with a J. Just throwing that out there.
Jack, Jake, Jimmy, Justin, and that's it. Yeah.
4 in a row.
That's this. Yeah. Fact checked. All right. Jake Matthews taking on Francisco Prado. What do you have to say? This is an interesting one.
Jake Matthews has
a lot of diversity from different areas that you don't expect here.
Jake Matthews, the Australian, the Celtic kid. He's been in the UFC a long time. This would be his 21st UFC fight. He is 20-7 overall, but 13-7 in the UFC. 7 finishes, but he's also been finished 4 times.
Alternated wins and losses for
in his
last,
last 7.
Yeah, it's a long time.
And he won his last fight, which was in June against Phil Rowe by unanimous decision.
It's time to break the streak.
And then we go to the Argentine Prado, Francisco Prado, 12-2 overall, but 1-2 in the UFC. He's coming off of a loss. He's alternated his last 4 wins, losses, and he comes in with a loss.
But listen, the boy's only 22.
Only 22, which is insane.
Right. I saw whoever earlier. I forget who exactly it was. Somebody was 25, and I was like, damn, that guy's young. And then I
22 in the UFC is
I got
insane.
to Prado, and I was like, Jesus, this is a baby.
It's crazy. He's still learning how to fight. I mean, there's no way he's at 22. He's probably going to move up in weight classes by the end of it.
Or at least have the option.
But he's a guy, being that young, I mean, he could grow significantly in terms of skill set, how he fights between every single fight.
Right.
Especially his last fight was in February of last year? It's been about a year since he fought. Who knows how much different he's going to fight compared to the last time he fought.
Right.
And he's taking on a guy we know who he is. He's only 30 years old, but he has 20 UFC career fights coming in.
Right. I agree with that. But let's take a step back and look at Prado a little more. He's 12-2. You know, you said he's going to grow a lot. I just realized the ringer he's run through in his time in the UFC. UFC debut of Jamie Malarkey, decision loss, February of 2023, which makes him 20. Gross. Next fight was Otman Azader. He had a first round KO, redeem yourself. And then your very next test is the golden boy, Daniel Zellhuber.
And a decision lost.
Right. So he's, to your credit, he's not getting finished.
He's never been finished out of his two losses, both decision.
He's hanging on to top
6 sub wins, 6 TKO wins.
I feel a change coming on, people. I think I've been convinced. I had Jake Matthews with the bigger odds here. I thought because of all the things I know about Jake Matthews, but I was overlooking Prado's losses. His losses are better than his wins because he doesn't have UFC wins to back himself. The UFC losses almost help him, in my opinion, on this one.
I don't know about losses helping you, but I agree with you. I think I had Prado from the get-go. I think he gets the win. I think he's going to show significant improvement from his last fight, which he's already been good. Jake Matthews is proven he's a solid UFC veteran, but he's kind of a stepping stone in terms of a UFC. He's not going to be a guy ever challenging for a title, but he's not really in danger of being cut.
Yeah.
So he's kind of that middle road guy. A good
Kevin
test to throw out to young guys coming up, trying to build their name. And I think Prado passes this test. And I got Prado. I think he's going to continue his streak of all his wins. Out of his 12 wins, they've all been finishes. I think he gets the win. I think his 13th win is also a finish.
I agree. He's going to win. I got to flip on that one. I've been convinced. Let's go to the light heavyweight division. Jimmy Crute taking on
the third J Australian.
Rodolfo Bellato.
Jimmy the Brute Crute, 12 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw in his career, but he's 4 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw in the UFC, including in his last 4 fights, 0 wins, 3 losses, and a draw. And he's taking on the Brazilian.
Can I say that a little differently? Crute hasn't won since October of 2020.
Yeah, so
that's a long fucking time.
4.5 years, pretty much.
Yeah.
And he's taking on Bellato, the traitor.
Yep. That's
his words, not my word.
Right.
The Brazilian. He's 1-0 in the UFC. He KO'd Patoria. Is that how you say his name?
Ihor Pataria, yeah.
Pataria, who's no longer in the UFC. But his last fight, he beat him by TKO in the second round. So he is a former LFA champ. He left LFA to come to the UFC.
I liked Ihor, too.
I did, too. 4 straight wins, though, for Bellato. He seems like a guy that's on the rise. A lot of momentum in his way. Not in his way, like behind him.
Right.
Got the big finish in his first UFC fight. That was all the way in December of 2023. So he's taken quite a bit of time off since then. And he's taking on a guy, although, as you said, he hasn't won since 2020. He's been in the UFC a while and he has a lot of UFC experience. How do you see it going?
I think it's hard for UFC fighters to come back.
Once that slide starts.
Not only that, but
especially it's been 5 years.
If I remember correctly, like Jimmy Crute was either retired or on the verge of retiring with either his last loss. That's why he had this big layoff.
His last 2 fights are against Minifield too, and he had the draw and then the loss.
He's almost had 2 years off almost.
His last fight was July of 2023.
Right.
So
almost
a year and a half
off. He was almost retired, if not, he was close. Bellato's got momentum, like you said, on his side. You see the career paths going different directions.
And it's crazy, though, because Bellato's actually older, but career-wise, he's younger.
Right.
That makes sense.
Bellato has a 3-inch reach advantage, and he's striking like a bat out of hell when we've seen him fight. I know it's, relatively limited, But
The
he's
one
got-
time we've seen him, he looked very good.
Yeah, it's hard to beat that. I got to go with Bellato winning. Crute, like I said, it's hard to come back. I think, the way to come back is for your hometown crowd. That gives you the most motivation to do it. I just don't think he's going to do it, unfortunately.
I think he's going to come out first round.
I think it's going to be emotional.
Look emotional. He's going to look good the first 2-3 minutes. Bellato's going to hold the storm. Not hold the storm, but he's going to survive.
Weather the storm.
Go through the storm.
You still just can't say it, huh?
Say what you said again.
Weather the storm.
Weather the storm. That's what I'm looking for.
I know.
He's going to weather the storm. Bellato's just going to dominate after that. I got Bellato. I think he finishes Jimmy Crute. Boom.
Nice. All right, let's go to the next fight. Heavyweight. So we go from, I like how they stack this card up. You have the welterweights and the light heavyweights. Next up is the heavyweights. Justin Tafa versus Taliesin Teixeira. 7-4 Justin Tafa taking on the undefeated prospect Teixeira.
7-0.
It's going to be fun.
Teixeira is making his UFC debut.
Mhm.
7-0 with 6 KOs. His last one coming in September of last year.
What are the chances
the Contender
that Junior has
Series?
to step in at some point this week to fight?
I
instead of
mean,
Justin?
if
We talked about this
There's
literally
like-
last week.
probably a 40% chance
That he breaks tears his hammy or whatever in warm-ups, and brother has to step in on 28-second notice.
yeah, Justin is, as you said, 7-4 with no contest, but he's only 4 wins, 4 losses, and a no contest in the UFC.
Which he did redeem the no contest by knocking Austin Lane out, a minute and 20 seconds into the next fight
yes, and then lost his next fight.
to Carl Williams,
Carl
which is
Williams.
a crazy, thing, because Austin Lane's kind of quote unquote back now since then.
Yeah,
And then
but
Carl Williams is
for the heavyweights not at the top, it's just about did I catch you or not?
right.
Because if they're so
Where's your
giant,
chin
so
when I
big,
swing?
if I hit you, you're going down.
Right. 7-0 from Teixeira. That's strong. We like that.
One thing about Tafa though, Justin, he's only been KO'd once, which is kind of crazy. Most of his losses have come by decision, including his last loss.
And it's terrifying to watch these big boys fight for that long.
And he's fighting a guy who is making his UFC debut, so we don't know how that's going to translate his power and his skill set.
We just have a little bit of stats from his road to the UFC stuff. So
And
yeah,
he
that should
has never had to beat somebody by scorecard. He's used to just knocking you out pretty much. 4 straight first round finishes. So it's going to be interesting if Teixeira can't get the knockout. Can he go the whole fight and point fight Justin Tafa to win? I think Teixeira does get the knockout. I think he's going to prove he's the bigger guy. I mean, he's 6'7".
Yeah, it's a big dude.
Bigger guy, bigger reach. I think he's younger. I think he's going to prove he's more skilled than Tafa, but Tafa's a very tough dude. I wouldn't be surprised if Tafa figured out a way to get this win, not get knocked out and get it, but I'm going to go Teixeira.
You're screaming left and right the odds of this fight. It's pretty much a toss-up, plus 115, minus 135. Like you said, this is a thing of who got caught type situation in a lot of the middling heavyweight fighters.
Yeah, unless you're like the top guys.
Now,
And even the top
Teixeira-
guys, sometimes it's if you get caught.
Teixeira, I would say, has a surprise sub victory. 6 KOs outside of that.
He does, but you don't know who he subbed. And
Right, that's why I said a surprise. To me, it's a surprise because typically we see heavyweights knocking people out. But what I'll
guarantee
point
you,
out,
he knocked the dude. He was pretty much knocked out on the ground and just jumped and choked him out.
right, got one thing and he was like, I got to quickly tap this sucks. One thing I got to point out that to me is
Sorry if that's not the case.
the biggest thing for
Watch him have the best
Teixeira's
jujitsu
favor-
we've ever seen for it.
Yeah, like rivaling Aspinall, super grappling or something stupid. Thing I got to lean on for Teixeira, though, 9-inch reach advantage.
Yeah, I mean, he's way bigger than Tafa. But although Tafa,
7 inches in height is one thing, but 9 inches is completely a range thing.
I agree with you. But at the same time, Tafa, he's in the heavyweight division. I doubt he's ever had a fight where he's had the longer reach or been the taller guy. He's used to being the smaller guy.
Yeah, because he's not the largest.
He's only 6 foot and he's a heavyweight.
I like how you say only 6 feet, but I get what you're
For a
saying.
heavyweight fighter, that's nothing.
I think Teixeira wins the fight. I
I
think
do
he's going to
too.
get the knockout.
I think he gets knocked out too. But
first or second round.
I think the way he wins is first, second round. I say all this, but I'm also not going to be shocked at all if Justin Tafa comes out and knocks him out.
Come to think, after looking at this card, the more I look at it, it's kind of hard. Like, I like a lot of Australian fighters.
Yeah, they're cool dudes.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the next fight. We both agree to Sheriff for the win by knockout. If he doesn't win by knockout, it's probably going to be a decision victory.
No, because he doesn't have a decision win either.
That's true. It would be a shit show. People
Yeah.
gasping for air.
Yeah.
Us praying. And
Both guys are praying this does not last more than a round and a half.
All right, let's talk about the next fight. The women's strawweight title fight. Zhang Weili defending her title.
Trying to make her third title defense.
I was hoping you had that stat because I forgot to write it down. Against the next undefeated prospect, the 11-0 Tatiana Suarez.
Tatiana 7-0 in the UFC with 4 sub victories, 1 KO. Suarez has a long time been thought of as a future UFC champion.
She was out for a while with an injury.
She's been out a couple times with knee injuries. Her last fight was all the way in August of 2023.
I love that for her.
A second-round submission. It is tough because she's arguably the most talented female fighter on this card, especially how good her grappling and jiu-jitsu is. But it's tough to take that long off and then come in and you're fighting Zhang Weili.
For 25 minutes. And then we did see the Zhao Nanyan fight where Zhang Weili just beat the fuck out of her for 25 straight. She killed her in the first round.
She choked her out.
Literally unconscious. And they had she, by the will of God, got up and walked back to her stool. And then for the next 4 rounds, just dominated. So if we have that same Zhang Weili, unfortunately, there's no amount of prep.
Yeah, I think Zhang Weili.
This ain't a Batman prep time conversation for Tatiana Suarez if the same Zhang Weili comes in and fights.
Zhang Weili is one of the most exciting fighters to watch fight. She's 9-2 in the UFC. Both losses to Rose. One was by.
And she loves Derek Lewis.
Yeah,
she's a national treasure.
Even though she's Chinese. One of her 2 losses was the head kick KO. So it was just like not a fluke, but it was like that'll happen.
Yeah.
The other one was a controversial.
Rattled. Sometimes you go to sleep.
The other one was a controversial split decision to Rose. So besides Rose, she's 9-0 in the UFC. She's 2-time champ. She lost the belt, got it back.
Right.
She's won 4 straight at this point.
And
going for a third title defense.
Fights just heartily. There was no question. It was a firm victory.
She's been active in the UFC. Out of her 3 career losses, the only one was by finish was that head kick loss. Mm-hmm. I just think her talent, the storm she's been through at the UFC, how good we've seen her, and how active she's been compared to Suarez, who, although is talented, is great in her own right. It's hard to come off that big of a layoff and fight literally, arguably
the best in the world.
The best in the world, possibly the best the division's ever seen.
Yeah.
So with all that said, I'm going with Zhang Weili. I think she defends her title again. I think it's going to be a close fight. Suarez is going to put up a fight, obviously.
I think it's going to be interesting. They wouldn't book, a co-main title fight if they didn't think it was going to be interesting.
I mean, they would. Steve Erceg.
You always bring that shit up. I fucking hate you. I agree with you in about everything you said. I just don't like we all just said. I just don't think Suarez is going to be able to bring enough to the table this go around. So I agree. Zhang Weili.
I think she probably wins by decision.
I was going to say the same, but it wouldn't surprise me to see her get a finish. She's got 19 career finishes?
Yeah, 19 exactly.
Yeah. So 11 KOs and 8 submissions for a woman UFC fighter is a shitload.
Yeah, 4 of the finishes in the UFC, 2 KOs, 2 submissions. So she can beat you anyway.
I like it. Let's go to the main fight. What's the final fight card called? I can't remember.
Main event.
The main event. There you go. For the middleweight title, the rematch that I think everybody's wanted to see since the very moment the first fight ended.
Yeah, because although people say, it's a robbery, which I don't agree. I just think it was a close fight. It was a great fight where both guys just beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah, you have Dricus Du Plessis.
Still knocks.
Is taking on the challenger, Sean Strickland. The first fight around, striking was in Strickland's favor. I think a lot of people would agree with that. Some people, you can argue whatever you want, especially if you're a fucking dumbass. Sorry. It's Strickland. I gotta say language for this. I'm American. The other side of it, you had Du Plessis, who landed 6 takedowns. Sean Strickland, with those 6 takedowns being landed against him, still has a 73% takedown defense, which means people aren't taking him down typically. So to land 6 is impressive. I still think it was a robbery, fuck him.
I think a robbery has to be an obvious. I don't think it was obvious. I think it was close.
Whatever. We're in the rematch. So I think this time, Sean Strickland's path to victory
Just to not get taken down.
He knew this was going to happen, right?
What?
He asked for him not to take him down, but I think
It's kind of a red flag to me.
It's kind of a.
If you're a man, you're going to box to me. It's like,
right,
nah,
but he
go
knows
box.
that he's not gonna. So I don't know if he's just toying with him, whatever. But I think in this camp, Sean's taken every ounce he could because we know his striking's there. It's the same striking every time, and it really never has to change because he just walks you down.
Yeah, unless you're fighting Alex Pereira, where he walks you down, you get knocked out.
Right, that's different. But
Dricus has some power though.
Strickland, if he shored up his remaining defense, that he just needed to not get caught a few of those times. If Du Plessis doesn't land 6 takedowns, there's no chance he won that fight, right? I think that's his way to win. Will he win? I don't know. Du Plessis did that typical win the belt and has been surging.
He's fought one time since then.
But he finished Izzy in spectacular form. Granted, we've seen Izzy fight a couple times since then.
And he was losing. He was arguably losing the fight though before he got the finish, but he got the 4th round finish. But let me read some stats about Du Plessis.
I have my turn, your turn.
22 wins, 2 losses in his career. 20 finishes. He's 8-0 in the UFC with 6 finishes. 4 out of his last fights, he's won by finish. The one was against Sean Strickland. Yeah. I think Du Plessis.
The one not finished.
The one not finished. Du Plessis, however you say his name, DPP, still knocks.
DDP, double penetration.
The African champ, whatever you want to call him, he's gotten better when he got the belts. I think he's going to show an improved form in this fight. I think Sean Strickland, we know his game plan. He's not going to change anything.
Right.
I think Du Plessis is going to be prepared for that. I think he's going to show better striking. He's going to show he's still better on the ground. I got DPP. I think it's probably going to be a decision fight, but I think it's going to be one where he kind of not dominates the fight, but he's going to win like 4 out of 5 rounds.
You know what's crazy? Like whenever a long time ago, one of probably episode like 13 or some bullshit when I picked Du Plessis to beat Whitaker. And I was just like, whoa. And then he did. And then the next thing, like Strickland got the belt. And then Du Plessis had to fight Strickland. I was like, man, fuck Du Plessis because Strickland's my dude and all that. I'm torn here because like this time the odds are even more in Du Plessis' favor. Everything's kind of stacked up against Sean Strickland. Just realistically, like it's hard to fight that when you can get taken down. Like if he can rob you, it's hard to win, right?
I don't think he's going to rob you though.
I still think in this case with how at least in the limited showing we had, Du Plessis got better. I think he still is getting better.
Du Plessis is only 31. It's crazy.
And he's jacked as fuck with cardio. He got his nose fixed so he can breathe. That honestly changed his life. Everybody agrees with that. I think, unfortunately, Du Plessis retains the belt.
I'm picking him and I'm going for him. I don't hate Sean, but
I like Sean. I want him to win. I'm more.
We've seen him. We saw him get the belt. We don't need him to be the face of the UFC.
That face, anyway. We have 47 though, so we don't know. Anyway, that's all the picks. Let's recap all of our picks real quick for UFC 312, and then we'll talk Super Bowl, bets, and then we'll go home.
I'm gonna go run through them real quick. Run through my picks real quick.
That's fine.
I got starting from the bottom.
Now we're here.
Topuria, everybody Wing Kong tonight. Nolan Jenkins, Prado, Bellatu, Teixeira, Zhang Wei Li, Dricus Du Plessis.
Nice. I have Alexandre Topuria. I have Wang Kong. I have Tom Nolan, Jack Jenkins, Francisco Prado, Rodolfo Bellato, Taliesin Teixeira. Dang, we picked 3 Australians in a row to lose. Zhang Wei Li and Dricus Du Plessis. So we agree on all of them.
Every single one.
Yes, sir. All right, let's talk Super Bowl now. What do you think Super Bowl 50-something.
In New Orleans.
59, I just remembered.
In New Orleans. Chiefs going for the three-peat.
You want to go this weekend?
No.
All right. Never mind.
Chiefs going for the three-peat against one of the teams they beat. Was it 2 years ago they beat the Eagles?
Yep.
For their first one. Well, their first one in this run, not
Right.
their first one overall. Chiefs 17-2 on the season, including the playoffs. Eagles 16-3. You know, people can bitch and moan about not liking these teams or tired of these teams. If you look at
Beat
the
them, bitch.
if you look at beat them, bitch, and if you look at the season as a whole, these are probably the two best teams. So
Yeah.
it's kind of what you want.
So with how we cover the NFL, we only pick 5 a week. We try to pick the 5 best games.
I think the Eagles and the Chiefs were like every week.
That's my argument. And I think during that time, Clara, shout out Clara, she's
just about to come up.
she would pick the Chiefs often. And I would think that's a very smart move because as we saw,
They never
often
lose,
this
and they have the
season-
refs on their side.
Fuck off with the refs on their side.
Okay, Josh Allen got that first down. That was total bullshit, but I digress.
Yeah. All right. We're good. Maybe next year, Josh Allen can get past him, not in the regular season, but it doesn't matter. Claire picked a lot. Picked them right a lot. The Chiefs won a lot. I thought the Eagles were going to be complete ass this season. I said that multiple times because at the end of last season, they were complete ass after how good they started.
Well, if you look at it, they had the great Super Bowl run, barely lost Super Bowl, started like 7-0,
and then just
then turned to
fell
ass,
apart somehow.
and then
they started like 0-2, and then like went 12
yeah, now they've turned the corner to being a great team.
So I don't know what's going on with them. What I do know is Jalen Hurts and Saquon,
it's a lethal combination.
scary. It's like Derrick Henry and Lamar, but on
Except
crack.
they win
Yeah.
in the playoffs.
It's nuts. But what I've also learned is you cannot count out the Chiefs, regardless of their money line, plus, minus, it doesn't matter. The Chiefs will win way more than they lose, especially in the postseason, evidently. What are they in the postseason over the past 3 years now?
Like 13-0, 12-0, something like that.
So I'm going to just ride that lightning. I'm going to say Chiefs win the three-peat. They make history. Patrick Mahomes should be up there in the conversation at this point in his career with Tom Brady. He doesn't have the accolades long-term.
He pretty much almost does.
But he has better accolades on the shorter term.
Yeah, so Alex, sound the
I don't know.
alarm. Everything you said,
Clara just told you to say.
Clara told me to say that. Clara has the Chiefs. My beautiful fiance, Clara, that is. She has the Chiefs. She has the Chiefs winning. She has the Chiefs covering 1.5.
Wow.
She has, get this, Travis Kelce, Super Bowl MVP. Travis Kelce proposes to Taylor Swift
Jesus.
after the Super Bowl. Ride the Chiefs lightning. Chiefs all day, every day. Three-peat. Patrick Mahomes. Almost a Tom Brady by the end of his career. We're gonna be asking
Who is Tom Brady?
Yes. Chiefs all day, every day. My beautiful
Tom Brady
fian-
is announcing the game
for
too.
this game.
Yeah, that sucks.
And they lifted his restrictions he has. You know,
for
he had
this one,
yeah, for the Super Bowl.
yeah, because your team's not in it, so it
Yeah,
doesn't
so it's-
matter. There's no restrictions.
But yeah, my beautiful fiance Clara picked the Chiefs.
That's a good
I
pick.
agree with her. Chiefs all day.
If you put $100 on the Chiefs all season, you wouldn't have lost many times. Just saying.
You would have won 17 out of 19 times.
That's
That's why I
a
said their
lot.
record earlier.
That's a lot. I didn't have it written down, and I don't have a good memory, so fuck you. All right, let's go to.
So we agree on every single pick.
That'd be crazy if we both went perfect.
Or if we got I would almost rather us both get everyone wrong.
That would be hilarious for all the viewers. Anywho, let's run through our bets for the week. Obviously, we both picked the Chiefs. The country is against us. 56.1% for the Eagles, 43.9% for the Chiefs.
Yes, because they don't like the Chiefs. They're tired of the
Whatever.
Chiefs.
Whatever. I don't care about the money. I want good football. What do you have for your bets this week? As we wrap up, this will be the final week of season 2, guys
Yeah, so I have
and gals.
2 Super Bowl bets and then 3 UFC bets.
Cool.
You
Lay
want
'em
to
on
just
me.
run all of them?
Yep.
All right, so the first one, I'm going to go with my 2 Super Bowl bets first. I have the Chiefs minus 1.5 points at minus 105 odds, inspired by my beautiful fiance, Clara. And also with the Super Bowl, I'm going to go the over 48.5 points at -115 odds. I think it's going to start off as a low-scoring game, then kind of explode in the second half, both teams going back and forth.
Statistically speaking, a lot of games this season were very slow first half. The game were pretty slow, and they did pick up quite a bit.
I think that happens a lot, and I think that's kind of the Chiefs' MO too.
Yeah, they got to figure out who they're playing.
Yeah.
What version of the Eagles they're playing, and then attack.
And then my 3 UFC bets, I'm going to go Zhang Weili at +100 even odds. I'm going to go Bellatu at -170 odds. And I'm going to go Jack Jenkins +190. I'm going to do 2 units on everything. So those are my 5 bets. Alex, what are your 5 bets?
I like those bets. I'm sticking with the Chiefs money line. I got that at -120. Pretty good. Eagles had even money right now. So I got Chiefs at -120. I got Tom Nolan over.
Tom Nolan sounds like a golfer.
Vyacheslav Borshev, the
Slava Claus.
I got Tom Nolan at +115. I got Jack Jenkins at +190. I'm riding that lightning with you. I have Taliesin Teixeira at -135 and Zhang Weili at -105. Damn near even money on that one on my side. 2 units on everything. We're going to finish off the season strong with this week. And then it's exciting because next week, or whenever the fights are next, maybe next week, maybe the week after. Either way, we're going to start doing like we did last season. Bring picks of our own to the table, 5 a week. Christian's the soccer guy.
Bringing the soccer back.
I rode that lightning on golf quite a bit, and I think I'm going to take that into the season pretty hard.
Just do one thing for me.
What's that?
Don't do baseball.
No, fuck baseball. I'm done with that. I tried to get into it again, and then it was just I didn't care immediately. So I'm out on baseball. If you want baseball bets, you have to follow Walking Bets, Taylor Mathis on Twitter.
All right, so check us out next time. It'll be episode 74 next time. We're gonna have pick your own picks. We're gonna go over UFC.
Yeah, that's it. Check it out.
Give you some bets.
Peace, guys. Chicken grease. Love y'all.